Hey guys, what's going on? Jimmy here. I've gotten a couple of questions over the last couple of years really about when am I going to bring back the landing page teardowns and things like that that we used to do on this channel. And well, tonight I guess we're going to do one of those. There was a question here from Damien Arlabas on, and my apologies if I mispronounce your last name, on Indie Hackers, looking for a designer but on a shoestring budget. And Damien looks like a developer, a MarTech enthusiast, working on his own products for the last 15 years, and is always kind of felt kind of shackled by the fact that he's not a web designer. And what I hope to cover in this video is just a couple of quick tweaks that we can do to his website, which is StackrApp. However, I guess maybe he just calls it Stacker. It's a really, really neat application for, I guess, larger enterprises. As you can see here, it actually catalogs the applications that they have in-house and allows employees or whomever is working on those applications to quickly look up which parts of the tech stack are with which technologies. And I could see using this in my day job. And we're actually going to cover just a couple of quick tweaks that we can do to this website to sort of bring it, make it pop a little bit. This website is using fairly standard Bootstrap. You can kind of tell by the way things are laid out, by the form controls and different things like that. It's actually a really, really good website. It's very clean. I love all the open space. So let's attempt to preserve that. Now, I am actually not a web designer myself. I am a developer who just kind of gets by. Of course, I am a fellow indie hacker, but if we're starting these businesses as micropreneurs, indie hackers, etc., we might not be able to afford all of these really high quality designers. So sometimes we've got to roll up our sleeves and get in there ourselves. So what I did is I downloaded the website's HTML and CSS using httracks. So we've got a local copy of this that we can make modifications to, and hopefully you find this useful. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up the code here in VS Code. This is theindex.html, and what we're going to do is create a new CSS file, call it custom.css. We will include this CSS file below all of the other CSS files. And we'll do that just so we can include our changes, have them override what's currently on the page, just to quickly move in and out of the HTML. So as we can see by this HTML, the website's background is fairly white. Generally, I like to give that a sort of a darker background, at least to make some of these white sections pop. Like for example, the background image right here to the screenshot, the background color to that is white, and it should stand out a little bit more. So what we can do is go into our custom CSS, and we'll do a body. And generally I like to mix a little bit of gray with a blue, sort of a nice subtle offset here. So we'll pick out something like F9, something like that. It's a little bit green, heavier on the blue here. We've got blue at full up, and kind of see how that looks. So if we just refresh, we'll notice that the page, not a ton of difference, but you'll notice that this section right here just pops quite a bit more. That's definitely what we want. We'll also notice that every single font on the page is a sans serif font. And I generally like to mix and match serif fonts with sans serif fonts just to sort of get some variety on the page, kind of make your headlines stick out a little bit more, and also just add a little bit of designer flair. So maybe we can tackle something like this H1. So typically what I like to use is Google Fonts. I've been browsing a couple. I've typed your name in just so we can see how things look if we want to tackle the navbar branding. I did find a font that I kind of liked, which was the Noto Serif font. So what we can do is after selecting the fonts, if we just go through and this Noto Serif font, if we add that, we can actually just copy this import statement and go back to our CSS, and above the CSS, we'll just go ahead and paste that. That'll import the fonts from Google Fonts. It is fantastic. Google Fonts is a great resource. Also, we can copy this right here, the Noto Serif, and what we want to do is we want to apply that to your main header. And your main header is actually the CRM for your applications. We notice that you're targeting that with an H1. So let's go ahead and do H1, and we'll just paste that there. Save it, go back to our browser here, back to your tab, refresh. Oh, we're already starting to pop. Look at that. That is looking really, really nice about now. Let's go ahead and leave that. The one thing that I do notice here is that we've got a really nice border around this, but we want to give certain page elements a little bit more dimension. Okay, we definitely want to give them a little bit more dimension so they pop out. Like these things right here are all sort of flat in the background. So let's go ahead and write a convenience class in CSS that adds a little bit of a drop shadow here. You'll notice that on things like Stripe or you know, various other web applications. A lot of the Laravel stuff that's designed by Adam Wathan and Steve Schoger tend to have these little tiny design tweaks that just really add quite a bit of dimension and cleanliness to the UI designs. It makes them look quite a bit fresh compared to stock Bootstrap. So let's go ahead and add in a convenience class called box shadow that targets these elements. And what we want to do is we want to apply just a slight box shadow, something like 4 pixels and a 6 pixel offset to sort of give it a little bit of dimension. And we'll target the HSLA values black at 20% opacity. Let's kind of see what we can apply that to. Let's apply that to this screenshot right here. So what we can do is we can find that image. Image is right here, nested in some center tags. We can fix that in a second. And all we got to do is say box shadow. And let's refresh. Ah, look at that. Already popping out. Call that, you know, you got your call to action right here, but you've got your image. Immediately the reader's eyes are gravitating towards that. Perfect. That's exactly what you want. As a matter of fact, this little horizontal rule that we've got going here, this little tiny line, I think we're going to leave that. That actually looks really, really good as is. Let's take a look also at the nav bar. The nav bar is a flat blue, but I think we can probably add a little bit more dimension either through the fonts or through the background. So one tool that I tend to like to use is a tool called UI gradients. And you can actually flip back and forth through a ton of different CSS colors and copy these gradients directly into your CSS. I think a gradient might look really, really, really good with your header bar to really separate it. It doesn't have to look so flat. Bourbon might be a little bit too crazy for you. However, Stellar, this is a really nice subtle bluish purplish fade, nice and progressive. Let's go ahead and snag that CSS here and go back to our code here, and that is nested inside of a standard Bootstrap nav element. So what we're going to do is we'll do nav, and we're actually going to paste that right in there, just right in there, and we're going to save it. We're going to refresh the page over here. Ah, and look at that. Look at that. Just quite a bit of dimension, just looking great. We do have a little bit of a weird thing going on here with these links. Let's go ahead and try to inspect that and figure out where that blue is coming from. It's coming from navbar default, the href inside of the list item. So we're actually going to copy this. And one of the good things about our custom CSS is since it's imported below everything else, we can just overwrite it. So let's go ahead and take out the border bottom for that piece just temporarily. So we took out the border, try to remove that blue clash, and it's a little bit flatter. We could tinker around with it, maybe change that, that color, but it does remove the clash. So I think we're going to leave it for now. This font, what font are we using for the StackrApp logo? I think that is Railway, okay, and it is a sans serif font. I did find something over here that we might be able to use, which is Francois 1. That seems like something that we could really put in there to give it a little bit of body. So I put in Stacker and not StackrApp because a lot of people that say like, get app name or so-and-so app.com, a lot of times their brand name is really just the first part. So let's look at Stacker as something here just to kind of tinker around. So Francois 1, I actually already copied that. So what we want to do is copy the font declaration here. And again, we want to figure out where this is in the hierarchy. So we're going to go to our index.html. And let's look at it. This is in a class called navbar brand. So let's do navbar brand. And we're going to paste that again. Okay, just Francois 1. Refresh. Oh, look at that. Let's try something else here. Please don't be offended by this. I'm not trying to murder your brand. We're just playing here. So we're gonna double check that. Ah, look at that. Just fantastic. Inspect. May need to bump that up a little bit. I'm not sure. What do you think? I'll leave it up to you. Let's see how it looks at 24. Yeah. A little bit more definition there. Ooh. All right, so this is really starting to come together. All right, so the next thing we want to do is tackle this informational grid right here. It sort of answers all the questions about what the application does, the major features. One thing that we could do to bring a little bit of dimension to this is utilize Bootstrap's card element, and we can do that right now. So we go to the point in the HTML where this information lives, and we say div class equals card, and then we can do underneath that, we can say div class equals card body, and we want to encapsulate everything inside of the card body, including the header. Cards in Bootstrap can actually have separate headers, which are usually grayed out. I don't know if that would look very good here. So we want everything to sort of meld together. And we've got a card working there. That looks great. Let's test out another card as well in the neighboring element where it says better transparency. Taking a look there. Of course, Visual Studio messes up all of our formatting, but that's okay. We're just, we know this is ugly, but sort of getting the point across. All right, save that. Let's see what we got going here. Ah, look at that. Okay, already starting to stand out. Let's go ahead and apply that to the rest of those elements. Class equals card, card body. Put those in. Great. Just, again, nothing crazy. Surrounding that stuff in the card. One more. All right, just save that there real quick. Ah, perfect. Okay, so now this is really starting to pop. Now, the one thing that I think that I would like a little bit better is if we apply those drop shadows and that white card background color. So these are pretty much the only elements that we're using cards on. So we could actually say card background color, and we could just set it to white. And you start to see those pop. That's really starting to look good. let's add a little bit more dimension by utilizing our box shadow convenience class there on these cards. Let's take a look here. Let's do that. Let's copy it. Let's apply it to the rest of our cards. Really kind of see how that looks. All right, perfect. Oh, we missed one. Hold on. There we go. There we go. Take a look. Now this page is really starting to pop. Okay, we've got quite a bit of font variation, not too much, just about 3 different typefaces, one for dominant, one for logo, and then one for kind of withdrawn text. Mixing in serif and sans serif fonts so it's not all monotonous. The other thing that I might like to do here is this header doesn't really match a lot of the rest. Like for example, we could have this match the simplified piece, whereas the what does it do is actually a different color. We probably want that to be drawn back a little bit. We probably want that to be somewhere near the gray that is down here. So probably somewhere in there. Take that down and keep that a little bit more withdrawn. So if we just go to homepage lead H2, we can add that to our CSS. And really the only thing we want to override is just the color. Perfect. So now if we refresh, okay, it's saved. Now, but these might look really good as blue. So let's take a look. Those are H4s. The H4s, so we might actually be able to blanket apply that style, or just apply it here. And what blue color are we using there? Let's see, StackrApp.com. Inspect. That blue. Okay, 0087E2. So yeah, let's go take a look. (0087E2). All right. Now, go back to our page. Now look at that. Really and truly, that is already popping. And again, just really, probably what, 20 minutes of just tinkering around with some CSS, using freely available gradient generators. We use Google Fonts, tweak the background a little bit, and already this website is starting to pop. So anyway, I hope you found this helpful. Daniel, please feel free to leave some feedback. Again, didn't mean to step on any toes, but I figured this might get the ball rolling, give you some ideas, get you inspired, so that maybe you don't have to hire a designer, at least just yet. This could potentially get you through to get your first few customers, at least kind of get things rolling. And really, I hope that you found this helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.